one of the biggest PS4 exclusives that have, of course, blown up the PS4 in terms of a platform was, of course, Spider-Man coming out in 2018. It was one of the biggest deals in gaming, especially in PlayStation, in a very long time. Well, actually, that year, God of War came out as well. So, of course, God of War, Spider-Man, that was a nice 1-2 punch for the year 2018. But, of course, it was obviously no surprise that there is a sequel in development right now over at Insomniac Games, now first-party owned Insomniac Games, on the sequel to Spider-Man. And of course, Spider-Man 2 is indeed probably likely going to come out for PS5, and we did get some new rumors involving said game. So without further ado, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD12. We're back in here on PlayStation Source, and we're talking about all of these rumors. Again, let me just hide in rumors about Spider-Man 2. Now, of course, links are in the description. This comes to us from a Reddit post from a person that is named Utopian Throwaway 90. And so what is really awkward about this is that like this whole rumor mill broke, I believe, on Thursday or Friday of last week. But when we checked on how long this account has been up, it was only up that day. So we got created that day and then published this entire, memoir of Spider-Man 2 and stuff like that. So take that as you will. This may be just a troll. None of this may be true, but I think it's so interesting to just dive in and kind of see what we got here. And honestly, his only reference of a source is that he's not sure if his contact wants to keep telling him stuff in the future. So that's kind of where he ends off this whole thing. So if you want to trust this guy's contacts, then do that by all means, but I'm taking it just as rumors. So let's run through the whole bullet list, and then we'll go and kind of do step by step and kind of just talk about all these things, right? So holiday 2021 release date, probably September, like PS4 Spider-Man was. Reveal is supposed to be happening this summer in 2020. No online co-op, completely single player game. Queens, shout out Queens, and Brooklyn will feature new gameplay mechanics to facilitate the low building traversal. Now, before we go into the next point, I did start reading it before I even, went off on the beat, but there will be spoilers for Spider-Man PS4 in this reading. Of course, that is, said to be assumed, but just in case, I will be spoiling the game, some parts of the game, and this next point will be spoiling a big part of the game as well. So, spoiler alert ahead if you have not played through Spider-Man PS4 yet. And if you haven't, what are you doing? Go and play it. Come on, guys. Come on, let's go. But it is set during winter time, and it's set approximately 5 to 6 months after the first game. Peter is still mourning Aunt May and constantly reminds himself of what happened. MJ and him live together, but she is away for the entire first act of the story. For the second game, Oscorp is attempting to clone certain DNA to build a super soldier. It goes wrong. New villains spawn from this wrong type of mixing of DNA and different stuff like that. Harry Osborn will become Venom, but it's a unique take on the character, my source said. Not my source, but the source of the okay, y'all know what I'm saying. Carnage and Mysterio are in the game. Eddie Brock is in the game and a major character. Miles is playable in sections of the game. They're still unsure whether to let the player free roam as him, but it isn't being thrown out completely just yet. So that point I have some thoughts about. A lot of thoughts on that point. But next up here, think of Arkham Knight system where you could switch to the other Bat family characters in certain situations. Same thing here. Not very original, but it is fun from what this post says. So we'll be getting some of that, kind of like rotating, ever evolving. You can choose, well, not choose, but in certain scenarios you can play as different characters other than Spider-Man, or I presume Miles as well, or maybe Miles is involved in that rotation of characters, but I digress. A new web chain mechanic is how my contact named it. You can basically chain together web zips, so when you reach a point, he immediately zips to the next and so on. That is really cool, and that's kind of like what they were alluding to in terms of having to make new gameplay mechanics for traversal for cities like Queens, because I am from Queens, just fun fact, but Queens has very much like low elevation buildings. Like, it's not like it's a big high skyscrapers, like high city type of buildings like you would find in Brooklyn or Manhattan, like we were in the first game. We were in Manhattan. It's very much like a more residential focused type of lower, there's overall just lower buildings in Queens. So I think this web chain would be a way to kind of facilitate and kind of get around that mentality of having Spider-Man be in an environment like Queens where there isn't that many high buildings to swing off of traditionally. So I like the concept of that. Web swinging is indeed overhauled. Speaking of that, it is overhauled. They have gone all out on the animation tech this time, so we won't see the same animation as much. More variety. Not only are they bringing the animations from PS4 over for the swing releases, they're adding many more. Yes, he said it 3 times, guys. Many more. All right. They have like 2 animators devoted completely and solely to the web release animations throughout the entire development cycle. I like that thing too, but I keep wanting to stop and talk about it. But let's just get through this last point and then we'll circle back and we'll maybe go bomb the top. You know what I'm saying? How about that? But there will be 3 swing modes: realistic, arcade, and hybrid. And those names aren't final. That's just what he says here in the rumor leak. So he says here that realistic is very Spider-Man 2-esque in that it's pure physics. Arcade is a little fake assistance, and hybrid is a merge of the two, basically PS4 swinging. And so he goes on to say that, you know, his contact will give him more details if he wants to. Not sure if he will, and stuff like that. And he looks like we had a quick edit here. So after talking further with my contact, I realized I made an error. The game is not set 5 to 6 months after the first, but it is set during winter. I apologize for misunderstanding this. Okay, so he does make a little correction here that we did not get on Friday. Oh, but I forgot to plug this whole thing. We did talk about this on Joker's Gamescast. I'll link that down below in the description as well if you want to check that out with me and Christian. We did talk about you know, this whole thing on Joker's Gamescast on Friday, so make sure to go check out that after this video. But it looks like the game will not be set 5 to 6 months after the first game, but it is set during the winter. So interesting that you know, his contact kind of corrected him on that and saying that it's not 5 to 6 months later. Maybe there's another time that this takes place in, stuff like that. I digress, but that is right there, right? So going up from the bottom, you know, I do like the fact that they're adding more swing modes, because I did hear a lot of, you know, critiques from a lot of people that they would rather have it like Spider-Man 2, where you know, left and right triggers, or, you know, I guess it'd be L2 and R2 would be the swinging from left or right hands, if that makes sense. I know, like, I believe that's how it was in Spider-Man 2 back in the PS2 days. For what this article, I mean, what this rumor actually you know, cites is that it's very Spider-Man 2-esque. I think that's what he's talking about here. I'm not sure. I didn't play Spider-Man 2. I played The Amazing Spider-Man developed by Treyarch on the PS2 a lot, and that one is where I get the whole like Queens low building traversal stuff, because the game was set in Queens, or at least a part of it was set in Queens in that game, and I do remember the low buildings and stuff like that, and they had Spider-Man zipping on the low buildings and stuff like that in that game. So I feel like they're going to do the same thing for Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. So I do like how there's a bunch of different swing modes. Fake, I guess, is, you know, I mean, the arcade version, which is like a fake assistance, I guess, is for, I don't know, a player that doesn't really want to master swinging, which is interesting. Okay, I mean, why not throw in options? Why not? But I do like how they are still retaining the PS4 swinging, the you know, what they're calling it, the hybrid system, where it's a merge of kind of both of those different mechanics into one. So I'm assuming we might be able to pull off some really cool web swinging abilities in the realistic mode and have more intricate swinging types. But I digress. Pretty cool to see that they are, you know, blowing up swinging as well as animation, because he even says here that, you know, the release animations, there are 2 animators that are rumored to be specifically involved with just those animations for the entire development cycle, which is really good to hear. I like that a lot. You know, while of course I had no issues with the PS4 swinging, you know, there were some things that were pretty repetitive and how it looked overall visually speaking, but I do like how they are gonna work to make it more diverse and make it look a little more different and stuff like that. So I like that part. The web chain looks like it's gonna fit perfectly with Queens, that low building height type of thing that we talked about before. How it looks like that's how you know, Spider-Man will be able to traverse quickly in Queens, that being a very low height building type of place, as I said before. I like that mechanic. It sounds cool as well. Like, I feel like, I mean, how I imagine it, I feel like, you know, Spider-Man will be mid-air and like you might be able to trigger it and do like a slow-mo where he, you know, quickly like lays down the zips before he actually zips to them, and like maybe like in slow motion animation where like you like pick your targets of where to zip next, and he just does it. I think that would be cool, but I digress. I like that a lot as well. I do think it's interesting how they note that there will be some sort of like character switching, different, changes when you go into a certain, like when you go into a certain, like situation or event in the game and stuff like that. So I really wonder what other characters we could be controlling. Obviously Peter, Spider-Man. Obviously, Miles, of course, duh. But who? I mean, do they include Mary Jane in that whole rotation? Are we going to be controlling the likes of like, I mean, that's where I'm really, like interested too. Is that like, because they specifically note like the Bat Family type of deals. So is it going to be that expansive as a Bat Family roster? Like, let me know what you guys think down below. Like, who do you think will be, playable in certain sections of the game, or do they just talk about Miles in that scenario? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Going on from here as well, Eddie Brock is in the game and a major character. Obviously, will be a pivotal toll as you've hopefully played through Spider-Man PS4. At the end, some things definitely happen. You know what I'm saying? Some really cool things involving, or at least traditionally involve Eddie Brock and different stuff like that. So it'll be cool to see that there. Carnage and Mysterio are in the game. I cannot wait to see Mysterio, boys. Oh my God. Carnage is cool, right? Carnage is cool. But Mysterio, let's go, baby. Let's go. Harry Osborn will become Venom, but it's a unique take on the character, my source said. So this I like, right? Because I as much as I love Spider-Man PS4, right? I feel like mine and Christian's biggest issue was that the story was easily just foretold in the first like 20 minutes or so of gameplay. Like once a certain character pops up, you're like, okay. This is where we're going. You know what I'm saying? So I do, will take any sort of, not that Insomniac wasn't original with Spider-Man PS4. Like there were definitely some unique aspects to that world in that game. But if we can get, as much different from them and much uniqueness from them as possible, I'm down for that. So I really like how Harry Osborn will become Venom instead of Eddie Brock and different stuff like that, and we'll see how that all unfolds within the game. And of course there is a lot of stuff with Harry about him being out of town and stuff like that, I believe, throughout the entire game. I believe because he is in the prequel novel, which we did cover as well on the channel around release of Spider-Man PS4, and he was overseas and stuff like that. But he leaves within the novel, and he is in the novel in New York for certain points of the novel. So really cool to see that, he will likely be back and have all this crazy stuff happen to him and different stuff like that. So Oscorp is attempting to clone certain DNA to build a super soldier. Goes wrong, and that's how we get these new villains, which will be interesting if, all of the villains that we see in this kind of revolve from Oscorp. Like, is that how Mysterio gets his stuff? Obviously, Carnage is pretty much gonna be from that, because Carnage, just branches off from Venom and stuff like that. So but Mysterio to be in that whole thing is interesting. Very interesting how they could tamper with DNA, and he all of a sudden, I don't know, that one seems kind of weird to me. Maybe Mysterio doesn't come from this DNA cloning thing and stuff like that, but I digress. Set during the winter time, of course, which, to talk about the winter time, guys, can you imagine swinging in Brooklyn at night when it's snowing? God, it's gonna look so good. It's gonna look so good. I cannot wait to see the photo modes of this game. This game is gonna be crazy. But now we know that it's not set approximately 5 to 6 months after the game. Now we know that that is not the case, and Peter is still mourning Aunt May and constantly reminds himself of what happened. MJ and, well, let's just talk about this piece, right? I love the fact of Peter being haunted by what happened to Aunt May. So if you guys don't know, spoiler alert, you know what I'm saying? Spoiler alert before I move on, right? Aunt May unfortunately dies because he had to, essentially use the one vaccine that he had throughout the game, or that he acquires in the game. He can either save Aunt May or use it to make a vaccine to save everyone else affected, right? So he chooses everyone, right, off of Aunt May's, permission, knowing that, hey, like, this is what you were this is what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? So and like seeing the effects of that reminds me of like an Iron Man 3 scenario where we have Tony having some sort of like PTSD to a certain degree and stuff like that of the events of the Avengers movie, the first one. So I do love that we're gonna see some of that within Peter and see that conflict. I like that is gonna be incorporated in the sequel. But MJ and him live together, but she's away for the entire first act. That was told, I believe, in the DLC. Like Christian made me aware of this and reminded me of this, was that MJ is overseas, doing some reporting on a certain war thing that's happening overseas and stuff like that. So she's dealing with that, and I'm sure she comes back and it's like, what happened? Yo, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So that is pretty cool right there. Queens and Brooklyn, of course, will feature new game mechanics, as I said before. No online co-op. I didn't really hear any co-op online rumors. I mean, maybe if y'all did, let me know, but I didn't hear anything about online co-op in the game. I think it would be cool if there was some sort of like side mode that you could play with a friend, like Peter and Miles and stuff like that, like maybe some different challenges or stuff like that, or different co-op missions or something. But I think it's cool to have the single player story be focused from a single player perspective, but I would like to see some sort of side mode that involves cooperative missions and stuff like that. I think that could be really neat. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe, this new faction rises up through the ranks within the city, and, Spider-Man and Miles are, working on the side to dispatch these different strongholds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that could be easily done in a co-op fashion. I think that could be really cool. You know what I'm saying? But looks like the main story won't be co-op, and I'm okay with that, honestly. Like, I'm cool with the main story being just single player to kind of focus in on the story and not so much the gameplay cooperative elements of that. You know what I'm saying? I digress. But hey, if they meld it in together, I'm sure it could be cool, but I'm not really bothered by not having online co-op in Spider-Man 2 for the PS5. You know what I'm saying? So there's apparently going to be a reveal this summer. I would love to see if this still holds up in spite of the pandemic going on, right? Like, I really want, because reveal this summer, huh? Reveal this summer. Could they be saying that this will be at the PS5 reveal event? Like, another PS5 reveal event, like the one where we talk about games, stuff like that. Not the one that we had last week where we were all talking about just technical specs and different stuff like that. Like, I wonder if that's what they're pointing to, which could be a really, really cool grab for, the PlayStation 5, and maybe even if it's just like a little splash screen or maybe like a little tease, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would even take that, but I digress. Looks like the holiday 2021 release date as well, and they say that it'll likely be in September, the same that the same month that PS4 Spider-Man came out as well. So holiday 2021 for me sounds right? Like it sounds like that could work. I could see a delay, but if it actually came out holiday 2021, I wouldn't be surprised, because I feel like that would make sense. The first game came out 2018. They started pre-production. It came out in September. They started pre-production and like script readings in January of 2019. So they definitely got to work on the second one very quickly after the first one came out, right? So it looks like they could definitely hit that. Who knows if it's delayed because of their own intuition or because of the pandemic? We'll have to see. But that's kind of where I fall on these rumors. Again, these are all rumors. They're not true. They're not facts, if you will. They may be true, but they're not concrete fact right now. But if they were, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are you guys thinking about these rumors? Do you like what you see? Do you not like it? What are certain things that you want implemented in the Spider-Man 2 on PS5? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And make sure also, while you are down there, to check out our description where you can find our Twitter, our Discord, as well as the anchor link to insert long-form content in podcast format. That, of course, being Road to Part 2, Road to 587 Remake, as well as Safe Talk Podcast down below on the anchor link. Check it out. Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify, all the good stuff down below in the description. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on the video, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Stories to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.